A boomerang of Monica in a glittering silver dress raising her champagne glass in slow motion, captioned, "Some people talk." I win! Her friends were tagged. So was the company, and me. She knew what she was doing. That photo was her digital victory dance, broadcasted across every platform we'd ever shared. She wanted the world to know she'd won, that she'd shoved me out of the picture, out of the company, and out of the conversation. Except she was celebrating too early, because what Monica didn't know was that while she poured the champagne, I had already sent the letter. Claire, my attorney, had clicked send at 4:46 p.m. A certified demand letter with attachments. It included a cease and desist order, a timeline of ownership misrepresentation, and a formal notice that Monica had violated multiple terms of our original partnership agreement. Subject line, legal action pending. Unauthorized executive authority. As she smiled for the camera, the first email alert landed in her inbox. As her followers liked and commented, our legal courier dropped the printed copy at her building's concierge. The confetti hadn't even settled yet. Monica had spent the last 6 weeks spinning a new story, one in which I was stepping back, burnt out, mentally unwell. She told the board I'd lost interest in the business I co-built. She whispered to clients that I had checked out. She even reintroduced herself in meetings as the sole strategic lead. And I let her. I watched from the sidelines as she stripped my name off emails, removed my headshot from the website, and even renamed internal folders as if I'd never existed. People asked why I didn't fight back. The truth, I was busy documenting everything. Every misstep she made was logged. Every unauthorized signature, every date-stamped change, every manipulated presentation slide, I had copies. Saved, sorted, cross-referenced with the original documentation she thought I'd deleted or forgotten. Monica played loud. I played long. And while she was hosting a party in my absence, I was sitting quietly in my living room, cross-legged with a laptop, a mug of tea, and a lawyer who believed me. At 5:17 p.m., someone tagged me in her story. At 5:20, Claire forwarded me the read receipt. The subject line had been opened. Twice. And by 5:31, Monica had stopped posting. No more photos, no more toasts. Just silence. That's the thing about people who celebrate too early. They forget that silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. And they forget that when you push a woman out of her own company, she just might come back with fax files and someone who knows how to write a devastating letter. It started with a compliment. "You're the quiet engine," Monica used to say. "The business would stall without you." At the time, I believed her. Back when we worked late nights in my dining room, making pitch decks and dreaming about clients that actually paid on time, Monica and I felt unstoppable. We were opposites in the best way, her all charisma and confidence. Me, steady hands and quiet strategy. I handled logistics. She handled attention. It worked, until it didn't. 3 years in, we were growing fast. Too fast, maybe. We had clients on retainer full-time staff and a new office with our logo stenciled on glass. That's when the shift began. It was subtle at first. A meeting I wasn't copied on. A lunch she forgot to mention. An invoice rerouted to her assistant instead of me. I chalked it up to chaos. Expansion always brings mess. We were learning, evolving, or so I told myself. Then came the client roster shuffle. Monica began reassigning accounts ostensibly for workflow balance. But I noticed a pattern: high-value clients with long-term potential were moved to her column. Mine dwindled. New inquiries were routed straight to her. "Just for simplicity," she said. I smiled, I nodded, and I saved every email. The next blow came dressed in concern. She took me to lunch. Her tone was gentle, almost maternal. "You seem tired, Rachel," she said. "You've been carrying so much." I blinked. "I'm fine. I mean, yeah, the pace is rough, but I've been thinking," she cut in. "Maybe it's time we consider restructuring. Give you space to breathe. Let me take the front-facing load." It sounded generous. It wasn't. Within a week, I was removed from day-to-day operations. Within a month, my name was no longer listed as creative director. And within 3 months, I was consulting, not co-leading a shift announced internally without my input. I tried to bring it up. "Monica, this isn't what we agreed to. I didn't step down. I didn't ask to be sidelined. She smiled all teeth in theater. Rachel, I'm just protecting you. You burn out easily. Remember last year, she was referring to the time I took 2 days off for a funeral. I clenched my jaw. This is my company too. Her voice softened dangerously. So, of course it is. But maybe it's time to evolve beyond labels. I mean, titles don't matter when we're both invested in the same dream, right? That night, I dug out our original LLC agreement. I hadn't looked at it in years, but there it was, clear as daylight: co-founders, equal partners, equal voting power, equal ownership. She hadn't removed me. She distracted me while she rewrote the story. And I had let her. The final straw came during a client meeting. A major account I'd brought in. A company I'd pitched, nurtured, and secured over months. I showed up excited to lead the strategy call, only to find out Monica had already met with them. Alone. And worse, she told them I'd be stepping away from the project. I thought we discussed that, she said when I confronted her. We didn't, I said flatly. Well, she shrugged. We're here now. That night, I called Claire. Claire wasn't flashy, but she was surgical. She didn't speak in metaphors. She spoke in precedent and proof. I brought her every document I had: emails, contracts, pay records, branding approvals, the LLC filing. Claire raised an eyebrow. She's been doing this a while, hasn't she? Yes. And you've been letting it slide. I winced. I didn't want to start a war. She nodded. Well, she did. You're just late to the battlefield. For the next 8 weeks, we worked quietly. Claire helped me reconstruct a timeline, how Monica gradually consolidated control, altered agreements, redirected funds, all without legal restructuring. We found discrepancies in her filings with the state, signatures on documents that weren't mine, but looked a little too close, edits to bylaws that had never been properly voted on. Monica had celebrated early because she thought the silence meant surrender. But the silence had a name, and her name was evidence. I didn't warn Monica, didn't tip her off. While she sipped cocktails and posted cryptic captions about manifesting wins, I organized Google Drive folders by month and named screenshots by timestamp. She laughed at me once for always backing up my emails. She wasn't laughing now. On the day Claire sent the letter, I felt no rage, no fear, just resolve. Because I finally understood this wasn't just about a company. It was about refusing to be erased by someone who never knew how much I had written. The first thing Monica did after receiving Claire's letter was post a selfie. It was taken in her car, sunglasses on. No caption, just the hashtag #unbothered. It had 47 likes in under 10 minutes. I watched quietly from the other side of the screen. I knew that look. I'd seen it in meetings when she was losing control and needed to convince the room otherwise. Monica's power was never in facts. It was in perception. So when perception cracked even slightly, she doubled down. By the next morning, she'd called 3 mutual clients. I know this because one of them, Julia from the branding firm we used to co-consult, called me directly. Hey, weird question, she said. Is everything okay between you and Monica? She told me you were filing some crazy legal drama over creative differences. I paused, steadying my breath. She said that, yeah, Julia replied. She made it sound like you were bitter about stepping down, that you were using lawyers instead of having a conversation. Classic Monica. Reframe reality, paint herself as the calm victim, and cast me as unstable and reactionary. I didn't defend myself. I just said, thanks for telling me, Julia. I appreciate the heads up, and I took notes. Monica didn't stop there. She started resharing old photos of us together on social media, captioned them with lines like, partnerships change, but I'm still standing. Some people lose the plot when the spotlight shifts. Still building, still thriving. It was subtle, strategic, and aimed directly at anyone paying attention to the lawsuit in the background. Claire warned me not to engage. She wants you reactive. She's trying to create a public narrative before the truth can land. I nodded. So what do? We build pressure, privately. Through documentation, let her dig the hole. You just hold the shovel. So we did. Claire filed a formal notice of arbitration. This wasn't just a letter anymore, it was a preliminary step toward litigation. Binding, legal, and very real. We served Monica with a demand to appear before a business arbitration board in 30 days. Her lawyer, newly retained young and probably underpaid, called Claire within 24 hours. "We'd like to request a delay," he said. "Ms. Harris is currently dealing with emotional distress." Claire responded flatly. She seemed emotionally fine on Instagram. Behind the scenes, I got to work rebuilding what Monica had tried to fracture. I reached out privately to every client we had once shared. Not with gossip, but with calm transparency. Just a note to clarify, I wrote, "I am no longer affiliated with Monica Harris or her business. Any past collaborative work remains under joint IP, and I'm happy to provide documentation should any confusion arise." Most of them responded with support. A few were cautious, but all appreciated the professionalism. Because here's what Monica never understood. Loyalty isn't won through volume. It's earned through consistency. Meanwhile, her behavior became increasingly erratic. She started CCing legal counsel on random emails, ones that had nothing to do with the case. She made veiled references to slander in internal memos. She threatened to go public with the real story without realizing that the real story was now under formal legal review. And then she did the one thing I had been quietly expecting. She tried to delete old records. Shared folders disappeared. Slack channels were archived. Even her email signature changed from co-founder to founder and sole visionary. But what she didn't realize was that I had already backed everything up weeks ago. Every shared document, every revision history, every version control log with timestamps and usernames. Claire smiled when I handed her the drive. "This is better than any deposition," she said. "She's building your case for you." The more Monica scrambled, the more composed I became. I showed up on time, prepared, never raised my voice, never commented online, never leaked a thing. And slowly the tide shifted. People began to notice the contrast. She was dramatic. I was deliberate. She posted captions. I filed motions. She spun her story into performance. But I'd turned mine into a case. One afternoon, while reviewing additional filings with Claire, I got a text from an old employee. It said, "I used to think you let her win. Now I see you were just letting her run out of rope. Proud of you." I stared at it for a long time. Because that's exactly what had happened. I hadn't surrendered. I had chosen silence until silence became my power. We were 4 weeks into arbitration prep when Monica's tone shifted. Her lawyer sent a new letter. The subject line said, "Proposal for private mediation," which in legal terms means she wants to negotiate before the evidence is heard. Claire looked at me. "Your move." I didn't answer immediately. I just smiled. Because she had celebrated too early. And now she was finally starting to realize I wasn't just back. I was ready. We met in a small, quiet office inside a neutral law firm downtown Neutral Ground, as they call it. Clean walls, leather chairs, water bottles with firm branding. It looked like a spa for conflict. This was mediation. Her idea. Her last attempt at controlling the narrative. She arrived 10 minutes late. Black heels blazer with shoulder pads, lips painted red like armor. She didn't look at me as she sat down. Her new lawyer looked nervous. Claire Mine looked amused. The mediator introduced herself and laid out the ground rules. "This is not court. We're not here to assign guilt. We're here to examine facts and seek a resolution. With mutual respect." Monica exhaled sharply, as if the word respect somehow offended her. I said nothing, because I already knew what was in the folder Claire was about to unzip. The first half hour was textbook Monica. She claimed miscommunication. She claimed I had mentally checked out of the business. She claimed that any documents she altered were done with the assumption of consent. "Rachel never once told me she objected to anything she said." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Because Rachel was never told you were doing it." Monica leaned forward, smirking. "If she had an issue, she could have picked up the phone." Claire responded without missing a beat. She preferred to pick up your email archive instead. And then she opened the binder. First page. An email from Monica to our web developer requesting the removal of my bio from the site. Claire tapped the header. Notice the timestamp 3:04 p.m. March 22nd. That same day, Monica emailed Rachel saying, "I'll wait for your approval before any changes are made." Second page, bank transfer records. Claire highlighted where the routing numbers had been altered. Funds from our joint project account were rerouted to a separate LLC Monica had registered under her own name a full 2 months before she claimed the split was amicable. Third page, A Slack message Monica thought she deleted. It read, "Once her name's off, everything we're clean. She won't fight. She never does." I watched Monica's lawyer freeze. Claire turned to the mediator. "We can keep going for another 100 pages. Or we can begin discussing restitution now." The room was silent. Even the mediator looked stunned. Monica broke first. "None of that proves intent," she snapped. It was messy, sure. But she gave up. She didn't show up for meetings, didn't respond. I was on medical leave. I interrupted my first words of the session. Calm, steady, and I have the signed leave approval form. From you. Claire placed the document in front of them. Initialed, dated, stamped. What followed was the slow unraveling of a woman who had built her power on people, assuming she was always in control. Monica started stumbling. She contradicted herself, tried to call certain documents outdated, claimed not to remember signing things, suggested maybe an assistant handled it. Claire responded the same way every time, "Then we'll subpoena the assistant." By hour 2, Monica wasn't leaning back in her chair anymore. She was folded in shoulders, tense eyes, scanning documents she clearly hadn't reviewed before the meeting. At one point, she whispered to her lawyer, "How did she get all this? I heard it." So did Claire. "She kept records," Claire replied. That was it. Not a threat, not a flex, just the truth. Eventually, the mediator called for a recess. Claire and I stepped out onto the balcony. She lit a cigarette, her one vice, and exhaled like she'd been waiting for it since March. "You good?" she asked. I nodded. "Better than I've been in a year." She smiled. "She underestimated you for too long." "No," I said. "She underestimated what I remember. I remember everything." When we returned to the room, Monica looked smaller. Her lawyer cleared his throat. "We'd like to offer a resolution," he said. "Ms. Harris is willing to release all contested IP, withdraw her claims to shared revenue from Q2 and Q3, and issue a public statement acknowledging Ms. Donovan's equal contribution to the company's formation and growth." Claire didn't blink. "And the retraction?" He nodded. "Full retraction, written not verbal, on company letterhead, with signature." Monica was silent. Claire turned to me. "Your call." I paused, then looked Monica in the eye for the first time that day. She wouldn't meet my gaze. I said one word, "accepted." We walked out 15 minutes later, agreement in hand. There were no hugs, no thank yous, just cold paper and cleaner air. Back in the elevator, Claire looked at me and said, "You could have dragged this further, sued for damages, press, headlines." "I didn't need revenge," I replied. "I just wanted the truth to have its place again." She nodded. "You got that. And then some." That night, Monica didn't post anything. No quotes, no boomerangs, no hashtags. Because she wasn't unbothered anymore. And I wasn't silent anymore. I didn't celebrate. There was no party. No Instagram post. No quiet smile in front of a mirror whispering, "I won." I just walked out of that office, folded the signed agreement into my bag, and exhaled. That was enough. Not because it felt like a victory, but because it finally felt over. I spent the next morning doing something small, watering my plants. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about how to protect my name, my work, or my voice. I was just still. There's something powerful about watching something grow again after so much has been taken from you. I didn't want Monica destroyed. I wanted her exposed, not through shame or gossip, but through documentation process law. I wanted her to face herself in the clearest mirror of all proof. People like her survive by convincing the world that the person they're undermining isn't worth listening to. But when you have the facts, you don't need volume. You just need patience. This wasn't just about business. This was about value, about how easily a woman can be erased if she's quiet, and how easily people believe she walked away if she doesn't shout back. I stayed silent not because I was weak, but because I was watching, because every move she made was one more brick in my foundation. And now, here's what I know: you don't have to scream to be heard. You don't have to fight dirty to win. And you don't have to defend your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. What you do have to do: save everything. Ask for help when the game shifts. And when the time comes, step into the room with every document they thought you didn't keep. I share this not for validation, but for you, the woman who's been pushed aside, who's been silenced with smiles, who's been told she's too sensitive, too dramatic, or too slow to adapt. You're not too anything. You were just trusting the wrong people. And now you know better. Have you ever watched someone claim the win too early, while you were quietly getting ready to speak? Drop your story in the comments. Because sometimes the loudest voice in the room isn't right. It's just loud. And sometimes the real power shows up with a calm tone, a signed letter, and a name they'll never forget again. Share your moment. Because you don't need applause, just your voice.